Welcome, esteemed viewers, to a journey through aesthetic realms. Today we will visit the Dead Sea Scrolls Foundation in Jerusalem, which takes care of the preservation, exhibition, and publishing of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Also called the Qumran Scrolls, these precious documents have even been regarded as the most important archaeological finding of the 20th century. They are by far the oldest existing scrolls of biblical scriptures studied in 3 of the world's major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
My name is Pnina Shor, and I'm head of a new unit that the Israel Antiquities Authority established to take care of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So the unit is called Dead Sea Scrolls Projects, and what we do is we take care of the scrolls physically, meaning conservation and preservation of the scrolls. We do all the curatorial work. We are in charge of the Dead Sea Scrolls exhibitions all over the world, and we are in charge of this big, huge digitalization project that we are about to begin.
The Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of hundreds of documents from the Hebrew Bible as well as religious texts, which are not part of the biblical canon.
My name is Emmanuel Tov. I'm a professor of Hebrew Bible at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Israel. I teach Bible and I teach Dead Sea Scrolls. Some 20 years ago, I've been appointed as the editor-in-chief of the International Dead Sea Scrolls Publication Committee. Before that time, I studied the Dead Sea Scrolls in general, and I also published some scrolls. But at that point, 20 years ago, I was appointed to oversee some 50, 60, 70 people in the whole world that were involved with the publication of the scrolls. It means that we look at the little fragments and we try to read them. We call that to decipher what is written on each small fragment, and we try to combine the fragments to a larger picture, and we then try to understand. And since the scrolls are fragmentary, we have to reconstruct what is found in the places that have not been preserved, and we write a commentary on each scroll. The Dead Sea Scrolls, that's the name we give to these fragments, have been found in 1947 in a cave, and then afterwards in several additional caves near the Dead Sea. That's the lowest point on earth, a very hot area in Israel. And because it was a hot area, the fragments have been preserved very well. It's an enormous amount of material. We now reckon that they are more than 900 different scrolls, although sometimes only small pieces of a scroll have been preserved.
The scrolls were first discovered in 1947 at Qumran on the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea by a Bedouin shepherd boy. From 1947 to 1956, many scrolls were unearthed in several locations, mostly along the western shore of the Dead Sea. In the 1960s, more scrolls were found during the excavation of the ancient fortress of Masada. And even in the last decade, there have still been a few new findings of scrolls.
They give us a very good live picture of literature that was used by the Jewish people 2,000 years ago. They are written in ancient Hebrew, and ancient Hebrew is the language of the Hebrew Bible. And a smaller group is in Aramaic. That's a language that is related to Hebrew. And some of the books in the Hebrew Bible, like Ezra, Daniel, are also in Aramaic. And Aramaic was the language that was spoken by Jesus. So it's a very important language. Some scrolls were written in the Greek language, the language that was the language of the period.
The proper conservation of these unique scrolls is an elaborate task and an enormous responsibility which requires a lot of dedication.
My name is Elena Liebman. I am the head of the Dead Sea Scrolls Conservation Laboratory of the Israel Antiquities Authority in Jerusalem. Short after the discovery, they were replaced from the desert to the Rockefeller Museum in Jerusalem. And a team of 8 scholars dealt with the scrolls, and when deciphering and putting the right position to the million of fragments, unfortunately they used tape. Actually nobody wanted to do any harm to the scrolls, but the fact is that harm was done. Let me show you the sample of such a plate with more than 30, I think, tiny fragments written in Hebrew, and put in between 2 sheets of plain glass, window glass, and you can see the tape glued on the back side of each fragment, sometimes several layers, one upon another. When 2 or 3 parts of same fragment were found, unfortunately they were joined in such an appropriate way. First thing which was done when we became conservators here, it was almost 20 years ago, was to replace the fragment from glass plates to acid-free cardboards. Most of them are now in acid-free cardboards, but there are some, about 10 or 15 plates like this one, remained in glass plates. Why? Because in this case, the fragments are stick to the surface of the glass, and it's impossible for us to open it. When the scrolls were replaced from the glass plates to the acid-free cardboard, this is the sample. The scroll looks like this one. This is very tiny, very small fragments of tefillin. Maybe you know what religious Jews use when praying. They put it in the tiny box here on the forehead and on the left hand. So this is head phylacteries for the forehand, and it is prepared to be exhibited in such a way. We have to put fragments inside 2 layers of such a sort of polyester net. Each fragment is sewn around, not touching it, with the same thread. It is written on both sides. That is why it is possible to see it from both sides. Now it's opened because it is back, not exhibited. in case when it is not written on both sides, it is put on the background of linen.
A cornerstone for the foundation of Judaism and subsequently for Christianity was the Ten Commandments, which were given to Moses on Mount Sinai. We were indeed lucky to have a chance to see the only Dead Sea Scroll which contains the oldest existing writing of the Holy Ten Commandments.
This is very interesting scroll, Deuteronomy scroll, the one and only scroll with the Ten Commandments, written 2,000 years ago. Here it is. It is written, honor your father and your mother, here.
The Dead Sea Scrolls were written during a crucial time in history. Ms. Pnina Shor explains.
The scrolls are manuscripts that were written between the end of the 3rd century BCE and until the 1st century CE, until the year 70, the destruction of the Second Temple. And the majority of them were written in the 1st century BCE and the 1st century CE. And this is the crucial time in history when both Judaism and Christianity were formalizing as we know them today. Therefore, these scrolls are very, very important both to the Jewish world and to the Christian world.
Who are the people who wrote the scrolls? What information do the scrolls give about them?
They include all of the books of the Bible and more than one copy of them, except for the book of Esther. They include a lot of